Is the HAWKS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Hawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the HAWKS POSTCAST, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's quick hitting, local insight after every game. You can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst Deshaun Tate. The HAWKS POSTCAST is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. So the Hawks made it 4 in a row. We'll talk about the 135-101 win over the Portland Trailblazers and how Atlanta finally got back to 500. And Tate, you said for you, it was because they had a balanced attack tonight.
It was, Tenitra. And listen, a large part of that because, this is why I feel like it's one of the more impressive wins for me, is just because of not necessarily looking at it as much about who they played, but just about how they won the game.
Yes.
A lot of times we see them win games because there's so much primarily based on its offense, not its defense as much. Just really being able to put more points on the board than the other team and win the game that way. Sometimes, which I do love a little bit more, is being able to lock down defensively, maybe not as great of a shooting night per se, but preventing the other team from having more points than them at the end of the game. This one I felt like was a little bit more balanced. You've got guys that are out there doing well, shooting high percentage shots, good shot selection. Things didn't appear to be forced. They seemed to be in sync. A lot of things that didn't show up necessarily on the box score. But for the things that did, from every facet of the game, from field goal percentage and shooting 55 to their 40, 3-point percentage 38 to their 35, free throw, let me say it again, free throw percentage 78 to their 69. I mean, rebounds, you name it, assists, steals, less turnovers, even though I'm not in love with 15, but fast break points in the paint. I mean, it's just like the list goes on. And I think that's where you really have to give them a lot of credit on tonight. That's the reason why that's my takeaway, is because we haven't seen them put together a lot of vibe and energy that feel like A+ type of games, especially when Jalen Johnson's not having a fantastic game. I think that just kind of puts the cherry on top and makes it all that much better.
Yeah, and I like when we were talking about it in pre-production, I said, hey, Tate, what do you mean by balanced attack? Because that could go a number of ways. And I like the fact that you said you were looking at what the Hawks were doing offensively and defensively. And our colleague, who, of course, has the Locked On Hawks postcast right after this podcast, you guys should check it out, Brad Rowland, asked Quinn Snyder pregame, how are you going to manage through this particular lineup, right? Because you have Jalen Johnson coming back after being out a couple games. You have Jonathan coming in his 3rd game, so he's still kind of feeling out what things look like. And I thought Quinn Snyder made a great point. He said, this is just kind of a 2.0 situation for us because we had to make a decision on how we were going to manage offense when CJ McCullough came in, right? And so they've had to kind of do it multiple times on the offensive side of the ball. So you might think a game like tonight will be a tough one for them because they're so busy figuring out who was going to get it done on offense that maybe the defense would have slacked, or they would have slacked defensively, but they didn't. They still had the commitment to defense, even though they are still trying to figure things out offensively. And so when you look at all of the categories, just as you mentioned, out rebounding the Blazers 54-38 is impressive. Getting 10 steals, doubling up on what the Blazers were able to do, and also being right there with them in blocks. So I think those are important things. And as well, when you look at the Blazers having 17 turnovers, Hawks had 15 turnovers, but the Hawks were able to capitalize with getting 30 points off Portland's turnovers versus Portland just getting 18 points off theirs. So I do think that's something to talk about as well. Like, hey, we were able to take advantage of our opponent's turnovers, but ultimately speaking, they were also able to ensure that the opponent didn't take advantage of their turnovers, which means, hey, you had a commitment on defense. And I think that was absolutely one of the plays, one of the most, I guess, impressive things that came back for me tonight.
I think the other thing, though, too,
Mom, you got to turn that down.
Is the fact that, when
it's only going to be a 10-minute show. Please,
I think when you're in this situation, when you have Atlanta, who is a team that was aware and alert as to what it is that Portland could do with its pace of play. From an assist standpoint, Portland's typically one of the better assist teams. We talk about Atlanta obviously being number one. Portland is actually one of the top, I believe, 5 in the NBA right now in terms of sharing the basketball. So I thought that it was important for Atlanta to be able to get some steals, stepping in between the passing lanes. We saw that a couple times as well, where they're playing those passing lanes, and then kind of limit the penetration in the paint. Now, granted, there was no Shaedon Sharpe on tonight, so typically he has a pretty big night against Atlanta, especially with his highlight reel dunks and all those other things. But yet still, they find a way to be able to get into the paint. That's something that they love doing because they don't shoot the 3 nearly as well.
Right.
Find a way to stay home on the defensive end of the ball and kind of fight under those screens, have some of those flashing screeners, things of that nature. A lot of those guys just tend to be able to lock in a little bit more defensively. And again, that just kind of goes back to that balance when you got some guys that just couldn't miss a shot. It was good that they had guys to be able to step up off the bench as well.
Yeah, and that was a perfect segue because that was my take. I want to have a quick sidebar take, which of course is just a reminder, Jalen Johnson, I still want to put you in bubble wrap because I know that everybody else stepped up in his return and him having a not so Jalen Johnson-like game, but I just want to put the guy in bubble wrap to end the season because we've got 20 games left for the Hawks and you want to at least see them maybe take a step out of that 10th place spot in the play-in section of the Eastern Conference, if you will, the little 4 boxes that they can't quite get out of. Right. But I think the way the bench played went a long way. And we're going to save one bench player for a little bit later on. So I'm going to talk about the others on the bench, if you will. I really like the game that we saw from Corey Kispert. Reason I say that is because, it was only 8 points. But if you're going to get 2 or 4 from 3, that's what we want you for. We want you to be able to shoot the ball from deep. That you did your job. So I'm happy with him. Zachary Reese-Shea, I think that the numbers are deceiving because, he only scored 5 points, only had 6 rebounds, but there were several stops in this game that showed the effort that we want to see from him. And I think most of what he does kind of harkens back, at least for many of us, to what Quinn Snyder was able to get out of DeAndre Hunter when he moved him to the bench. Yeah, so I'm starting to kind of see that, and I got to respect a young Zachary Reese-Shea for being able to embrace moving from the starting lineup to the bench and being able to actually produce with the second unit. And once again, what in the Jock Landale is going on in Atlanta? Because this guy has really, really been a nice little jewel in the diamond in the rough for the Hawks once again. 14 points in just 18 minutes, 6 of 11 shooting from the field, 5 rebounds, and literally when you just 1 turnover on the night. So I'm just excited about seeing some of these players whom we weren't sure what they were going to bring to the table for the Hawks. We also weren't sure because we didn't see any big names other than Jonathan Kuminga. Again, we got you, JK. We're coming with the JK, but I think that what we've seen so far from a lot of these guys that the Hawks have picked up throughout the season, that's a good look. And I'll tell you one more.
Okay.
And this is really more because of injuries and kind of shifts, if you will. So CJ McCollum started tonight, but I just want to say something positive about him, just in terms of what he's able to do, no matter where Quinn Snyder puts him, whether he has him in the starting lineup or whether he has him in the second unit. He's also been a really good weapon for the Hawks. So again, I know he was in the starting lineup tonight, 6 of 13 to get 19 points, 2 of 4 from 3. So if you're going 50% from 3, and I know Deshaun loves it when he could say 5 of 6 from the free throw line. So again, we know he started, but whether Quinn puts him in the second unit or the starting unit, I feel like CJ McCollum is delivering. But there's another guy, the guy who, man, oh man, has he been delivering in the 3 games that he has been with the Hawks? And we want to tell you guys about the player of the game next up. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. PrizePicks is giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. PrizePicks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, you can cash in. You can choose from basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, UFC, and more. Plus, they've got features like early payouts and flex play, so you've got options while the games are still happening. So you can download the app and you'll be surprised how easy it is to get started. It'll just take you a couple minutes to build your first lineup, and you can make NBA lineups around players you already follow, picking more or less on points and assists, and it honestly makes every possession way more fun to watch. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. This episode of our Locked On Hawks postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. You'll love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. So play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This episode of our Locked On Hawks postcast is also brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert to start to finish without the stress or guesswork. You can upload your documents, go about your day, get updates right in the TurboTax app, and it's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. So take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Boy, oh boy, Deshaun, I absolutely, you know, this is one of my favorite opportunities because I love when Double O is playing like Double O played tonight. Onyeka Okongwu scored 14 points in less than 7 minutes to begin the Hawks game against the Blazers, and that's why Double O is our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Double O had himself a night. Double O with a double-double, 25 points, 10 rebounds. And those 25 points not only came from 9 of 15 shooting from the field, but 7 of 12 from three-point land. I think he missed his record by just 1 three-pointer, right? Also had 6 assists, 2 steals, a block, and just 1 turnover. An absolute beast tonight, a plus 20 in the plus minus for the Hawks. And again, what I loved about his play the most is he established himself and set the tone for this team from the beginning.
The part that I probably love about the most about all of this is that, I don't know if I go as far as to say I was wrong, but what I needed to see, I'm finally able to see. Once we started having conversation, because I've always been the one that's like, man, Onyeka Okongwu, like, I'm not sure that I see him as like a starting center. And is he your most ideal and prototypical center in this? Probably not. But I wasn't extremely confident based off of the minutes that I've seen him getting as a consistent guy off the bench, that I saw him doing this as a consistent starter.
Yeah.
And now that I'm able to see that for myself, I'm like, okay, I can get on board with this because it's being consistent. And to see him getting the rebounds that he's able to get, the offensive game that he has, and not overly athletic in an overly athletic league, not overly explosive in an overly all these different things. Very fundamentally sound, very basic, kind of an former Atlanta Hawk, Al Horford kind of feel to things.
Yes.
Even when there was times when he just wasn't the starting center and everyone was just kind of getting pushed in front of him and so forth until his name was called, and making sure that everybody's not ready when their name is called. Yeah. Everybody's not ready to answer, the calls a lot of times. And it's nice to see that he's been able to, when he's the consistent starter, deliver. When he's the consistent guy coming off the bench or six-man, he delivers. If they need him to sometimes go back and forth, because that one time there was a Kristaps Porzingis, or one time there was another guy. You know exactly what you're going to get out of a guy like him each and every single night. And to me, that's a lot better than maybe a guy who maybe specializes in one thing. And if he has an on night, that's great. And if he has an off night, it's like he's invisible and now it's 5-on-4. I think it's great that you have someone that you can anticipate everything that you're going to get out of them every single night.
Yeah. And in this league, we talk all the time about the importance of a wing being 3-and-D, but there's also something about, and like you said, he's more of a hybrid center. He's kind of like a forward center, probably more power forward than he is center. But if he can still bang in there with the best of them, because remember, some of his better games are against the likes of bigs around the league. Like we always are marveling.
Giannis.
That's what I was about to say. We're always marveling at how he could just make Giannis look like a pedestrian, for all intents and purposes. So the fact that he has evolved his offensive game, we're talking about a forward center who was 7-12 tonight, right? We're talking about a forward center who had to be taught to embrace handling the ball, 6 assists, just 1 turnover. So yeah, while he doesn't look like maybe the more traditional center per se, what he does look like is what big men are starting to look like in the league. And I think that's going to bode well for the Hawks as he continues to put more tools in that toolkit. And he continues to add things like a mid-range jumper to complement that, what he can do at the basket, what he can now do from deep. I'm just really liking the evolution of his game. And somebody else that I like as well is another new addition for the Atlanta Hawks, and that is what makes him our X factor.
It's time to reveal who made the biggest under-the-radar impact with today's X Factor.
He did it again. It has been the best 3 games ever because, let's just face it, Deshaun, we weren't sure what we were going to get out of Jonathan Kuminga because, of course, things went way south and way sour in his final couple of months with the Golden State Warriors, although this had been brewing for a while. He touches down and he has this amazing game. Like he was like 27 points in his debut with the Hawks. And you're wondering, is this something that's sustainable? And is it something that's sustainable when Jalen Johnson comes back? Well, Jalen Johnson happened to have an off night tonight, coming back just 8-8. But Jonathan Kuminga took up the slack, 20 points in just 25 minutes. He went 7 of 10 from the field, and we'll say okay from free throw land, 5 of 7 to go with 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Nice night from Jonathan Kuminga, and I think he is starting to be an X factor, similar to what you said about Onyeka Okongwu, because whether you have JK in the starting lineup or whether you have him coming off the bench, seems like he understands how to fit in already and how to deliver.
It's the 2 steals for me. On the offensive side of the ball, I had a really good feeling that, what type of player that we're going to get and that we're going to see, especially one with the highlight real dunks and getting out in transition. I think the last time we were having this conversation about a game that he had finished with was his ability to be able to shoot the ball from 3. That kind of surprised me, along with some other people, more than we probably had been able to see him do at Golden State. Obviously, they got other 3-point shooters over there, so he probably didn't get that opportunity nearly as much. But it's great that he can be able to showcase some of these things, and not only that, but rebounding the ball. He's big, he's a strong guy, and I think that there's something to say about the energy that he feels that he's playing with and having a new home and kind of feeling like rejuvenated or kind of like replenished a little bit. Sometimes, as we all know, just like in our everyday lives, a change is good and a new start. And it feels very much, you see him look like he's having fun. I'll probably keep saying this over and over, but I'm not sure I've ever seen him smile this much since draft night. And so he looks like he's having fun. He looks like he's enjoying himself. And it's not his team, but he's not worried about it being his team. We don't have to be concerned. It could be, they can share these responsibilities amongst one another. When Jalen Johnson's not having a great night like on tonight, you have somebody like him who can step in. It's not about whose team it is. It's just about adding a number to the left side of the result column and everybody contributed. The unselfishness, I think, is the biggest part about everybody on this roster. You don't have that selfish feel or that selfish vibe. Jalen Johnson, one of the better assist men in the NBA. You have Jonathan Kuminga, who looks like he's trying to get in wherever he can fit in and, add to be a good piece production-wise to this team. CJ McCollum, who's one of the better leaders in this NBA, no matter what team it is. So I think that it's good all across the board, and Jonathan Kuminga brings a little something extra to this team with some positivity. He gives us some optimism for a good reason.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. The Hawks Postcast is the #1 place to hang out after every game and as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, head over to Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We'll see you next time when the Hawks take on the Milwaukee Bucks.